I was changing my oil on a Saturday morning when I found something that didn't belong there. Cold October air, smell of diesel and dead leaves. I was on my back under the truck, oil pan draining into a bucket, when my hand brushed against something stuck to the rear axle. Small, hard, magnetic. I pulled it loose and slid out into the daylight. A black plastic box about the size of a deck of cards. GPS tracker, the kind you'd use to follow a cheating spouse. Or a dog that runs off. Or a little red LED blinked at me like a second heartbeat. Someone was watching me. I held it in my hand for 20 minutes, sitting there on the cold gravel, trying to think of one good reason why my wife would need to know where I was every second of every day. Couldn't think of one. So I did something she'd never expect. The first thing I did was wrap it in a shop rag and put it in my toolbox. Then I finished changing the oil like nothing had happened, drained the pan, replaced the filter, torqued the plug, wiped my hands on my jeans. My heart was hammering, but my hands were steady. 48 years old. 25 of those years spent working this ranch. 12 years married to Martha before cancer took her. 2 years married to Lisa. 2 years of thinking I'd gotten lucky twice in one lifetime. I walked across the gravel driveway toward the house. White 2-story farmhouse, wraparound porch, paint peeling a little on the north side, where the wind hits hardest. My father built it in 1967. Raised me here. I raised my daughter Sarah here. This was home, and someone was tracking me like an animal. I came in through the mudroom, kicked off my boots, smell of coffee, and something sweet, cinnamon rolls maybe. Lisa was in the kitchen, humming along to the radio. She had her back to me, blonde hair pulled up in a ponytail, wearing one of my old flannel shirts over yoga pants. She looked perfect. She always looked perfect. "How's the truck, honey?" she called without turning around. "Fine," I said. "Just routine." "Good." She turned, smiled at me, warm, easy. "Coffee's fresh. Want some breakfast?" "Sure." I washed my hands at the sink, watched her move around the kitchen. She'd learned to make Martha's cinnamon rolls from the recipe card I kept in the drawer, learned to take her coffee black like I did, learned all my routines, my patterns, my habits. Of course she had. She'd been tracking me. She set a plate in front of me, kissed the top of my head. Her perfume, something floral and expensive, mixed with the smell of sugar and butter. "You seem tense," she said. "Just tired. You work too hard." She sat across from me, cradling her coffee mug. "You know, we should take a trip, get away for a while. Maybe somewhere warm. I'm so sick of Montana winters." "Maybe," I said. Her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at it, screen lit up for half a second, just long enough for me to see a name. "Ryan." She silenced it. Fast, too fast. "Telemarketer," she said. I ate the cinnamon roll. It tasted like dust in my mouth, but I finished it anyway. Told her it was good, told her thank you. She smiled. And for the first time in 2 years, I wondered if I'd ever really known her at all. I told Lisa I was going to town for fence staples. She didn't ask questions, she never did. I think she liked it when I left. Gave her time to do whatever it was she did in that locked office upstairs. Ava drove the 15 miles into town with the tracker sitting in the glove box, wrapped in that shop rag like a severed finger, pulled into the gravel lot at Rosie's Diner. Saturday morning, so it was busy. Ranchers and their families, high school kids getting pancakes before football practice, retirees drinking coffee and lying about the weather. Dave Porter was at the counter, always was. 62 years old, retired from his own cattle operation 5 years back after his wife Ellen died of a stroke. He and I had an understanding. We drank coffee together on Saturdays and didn't talk about the empty chairs beside us. Until today, I sat down next to him. Rosie, 70, mean as a snake, made the best pie in 3 counties, poured me a cup without asking. "You look like shit, Jack," she said. "Thanks, Rosie." She moved on to the next customer. Dave studied me over the rim of his mug. He had the kind of face that didn't miss much. Deep lines around pale blue eyes, sun-weathered skin, a jaw that had seen its share of hard words and harder years. "What's wrong?" he said quietly. I pulled the rag out of my jacket pocket, unfolded it on the counter between us. The tracker sat there like a tumor. Dave went very still. Then he picked it up, turned it over, looked at the blinking red light. "Where'd you find this?" "Under my truck." "How long's it been there?" "No idea. Could have been weeks." "Months." He set it down carefully. "You know who put it there?" I didn't answer. Dave's jaw tightened. "Jack, you know who did this?" I got an idea. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he leaned in close, voice low enough that nobody else could hear. "My old man used to say, when you find a snake in your house, don't yell. Just figure out how it got in." He paused. "You going to confront her?" "No." "Good." Dave took a slow sip of coffee. You confront her now, she'll turn it around on you. Make you look crazy, make you look paranoid. Judge will believe her too. Pretty young wife. Worried about her older husband losing his mind. I'd already thought of that. So, what do I do? Dave looked at the tracker, then at me. You wait, he said. You watch, you gather proof. And when you got enough to bury her, you bury her so deep she never sees daylight again. That's cold. That's smart. He finished his coffee. You're a good man, Jack. Don't let what she's doing turn you into something stupid. I wrapped the tracker back up, put it in my pocket. Thanks, Dave. Don't thank me yet. He dropped a 5 on the counter for his coffee. This kind of thing, it gets worse before it gets better. You ready for that? Guess I have to be. He clapped me on the shoulder and walked out. I sat there for another 10 minutes, staring at my coffee, thinking about the woman in my kitchen, making cinnamon rolls and humming along to love songs on the radio. Then I drove home. Lisa asked where the fence staples were. I told her they were out of stock. She believed me. She always did. That night, I told Lisa I had work to do in the barn. She kissed my cheek and said not to stay out too late. Said she'd keep dinner warm. I walked across the yard with a flashlight and the tracker in my pocket. The barn smelled like hay and leather and 50 years of honest work. I sat on a hay bale under the single bulb hanging from the rafters and really looked at the thing. Small, professional, weathered edges. It had been there a while. The magnetic backing was strong, designed to hold through rain and wind and 1,000 miles of Montana highway. Serial number filed off. Whoever planted it knew what they were doing. I turned it over in my hands, feeling the weight of it. Not just the physical weight, 3-4 ounces maybe, but the weight of what it meant. Every trip to town, every fence line I rode, every morning I left the house before dawn to check cattle. She knew, always knew. I pulled out my phone and called my nephew Tyler. 26, worked at support and billings, probably the only person in the family who understood technology better than how to operate a tractor. Uncle Jack? He sounded surprised. I didn't call much. Tyler, got a question for you. Sure, what's up? If someone planted a GPS tracker on your vehicle, could you trace who's receiving the signal? Long pause. That's oddly specific. You okay? Just answer the question. Theoretically, not without access to their account or the device's login credentials. Those trackers send data to a phone app or website. But you could test it. How? Move it somewhere unexpected. If someone's monitoring it, they'll react. It's like, you know how you can tell if someone's reading your mail? Send yourself a letter and see if they mention it. I sat with that for a minute. Thanks, Tyler. Uncle Jack, are you... I hung up. Sat there in the barn, listening to the wind rattle the tin roof, and thought about England, about how far away that was, about what would happen if this little black box suddenly showed up 4,000 miles from Montana. If Lisa was watching, she'd panic. And when people panic, they make mistakes. I hid the tracker in my toolbox and went back to the house. Dinner was on the table. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans. The table was set for 2, good plates, cloth napkins, candles lit. Lisa had changed into a blue dress I'd bought her last Christmas. What's the occasion? I asked. She smiled. No occasion, just felt like doing something nice. We sat down. She said grace, something she'd started doing after we got married, even though I couldn't remember her being particularly religious before. But I bowed my head and let her talk to God about gratitude and blessings and being thankful for the people we love. When she said amen, I almost believed her. Dinner was good. She'd learned to cook the way Martha used to, slow roasted, the meat falling apart on the fork, gravy thick and dark. We talked about small things, the weather, the new family that bought the Hanson place down the road, whether we should repaint the shutters in the spring. Normal things, married things. She reached across the table and put her hand over mine. I love you, Jack, she said. And the terrible part, the part that made my chest ache, was that she looked like she meant it. Her eyes soft, her smile genuine. The candlelight catching in her hair, this was the woman I'd married. The woman who'd held me when I cried about Martha. The woman who'd learned to make biscuits from a recipe card because she knew it made me happy. The woman who'd promised, standing in front of the pastor and God and everyone, to love me in sickness and in health. I love you too, I said. And maybe part of me still did. Or maybe I just loved who I thought she was. Her phone buzzed on the counter. She didn't move. Didn't even glance at it. It buzzed again. You should get that, I said. Yes, it's nothing. Could be important. She hesitated, then stood up, walked to the counter, looked at the screen. Her face changed, just for a second. A flicker of something cold and sharp. Then the mask slid back into place. Spam call, she said. You sure? Positive. She silenced the phone, came back to the table, sat down. Where were we? But I'd seen it, that flicker, that crack in the performance. We finished dinner. She asked if I wanted dessert. She'd made apple pie. I said I was full. She smiled and said she'd save me a piece for tomorrow. We did the dishes together. Her washing, me drying, her humming some song I didn't recognize, me watching her hands move through the soapy water, wondering if those same hands had crawled under my truck and planted a device to track me like an animal. Jack? I blinked. Yeah? You seem far away tonight. Just tired. She dried her hands on a towel, stepped close, put her arms around my neck. I could smell her shampoo, coconut and vanilla. Come to bed early, she said softly. I miss you. I'll be up soon. She kissed me, long and slow and sweet. Then she went upstairs. I stood in the kitchen for a long time after that, listening to the old house settle, listening to the wind, listening to my own heartbeat. On the counter, her phone sat dark and silent. Ryan, I thought. Who the hell is Ryan? That night, I lay in bed next to her and counted her breaths. In, out, slow and even. She slept like someone with nothing to hide. I stared at the ceiling and thought about the first time I'd met her. Grief counseling group at the church, 2 years after Martha died. Lisa had been there, tissues in her hand, talking about losing her husband to a heart attack. How lonely she was, how scared, how she didn't know if she'd ever feel whole again. I'd understood that. God, I'd understood it so completely. We'd gotten coffee after the meeting, then dinner, then more dinners. She'd moved in after 3 months. Said she couldn't afford her apartment anymore. The life insurance had run out. I'd offered. What else was I supposed to do? We got married 8 months later. Small ceremony. Just us, Sarah, Dave, and the pastor. Sarah had been quiet that day. Polite, but quiet. After the reception, she'd pulled me aside. Dad, she'd said, are you sure about this? Sure about what? Her, Lisa. Are you sure? Sarah, I know it's hard. It's not that. She'd looked at me with Martha's eyes. She's not like Mom. She doesn't look at you the way Mom did. Everyone's different, baby. I know, but... She'd trailed off. Never mind. I'd hugged her, told her everything would be okay. Told her Lisa was good for me, that I wasn't so lonely anymore, that we'd be a family. Sarah had nodded, gone back to boarding school the next week. She'd tried to warn me. My own daughter had tried to warn me, and I hadn't listened. Next to me, Lisa stirred in her sleep, rolled over. Her hand found mine under the blanket, squeezed it gently. I looked at her face in the darkness, peaceful, beautiful, a stranger. I slipped my hand free, got up, went downstairs, stood at the kitchen window, and looked out at the dark land, the fields, the fence lines, the mountains black against the stars. This land had been in my family for 3 generations. My grandfather homesteaded it. My father built the house. I'd raised my daughter here, buried my wife here, and now I was sharing it with someone who'd put a tracker on my truck, like I was something that needed to be monitored, controlled, watched. Why? What was she afraid I'd find? Or what was she planning that required her to know where I was every second of every day? I thought about Dave's words. This kind of thing, it gets worse before it gets better. Yeah, I believed him. I made a pot of coffee even though it was 2 a.m, sat at the kitchen table, drank it black and bitter, and thought about what comes next. England, I thought. I'd mail the tracker to England, and then I'd wait. Monday morning, I drove to the post office with the tracker in my jacket pocket. The clerk was Ruth Zimmerman, 73, worked there since 1982, knew everyone's business and half their secrets. She looked up when I walked in, bifocals sliding down her nose. Morning, Jack. Ruth, what can I do for you? I pulled out a small padded envelope. Inside, the GPS tracker, wrapped in bubble wrap and taped to a blank postcard. I'd spent Sunday night on the computer, finding a random address in Manchester, England. Some residential street, some house I'd never see. Mr. Thomas Whitmore, 47 Ashford Lane, Manchester, M14 5PL, United Kingdom. Made up name, real address. The postman would deliver it. Someone would find it on their doorstep. Probably throw it away. But for 5 to 7 days, while it crossed the Atlantic, Lisa would see it moving farther and farther from Montana, and she'd have to wonder. International? Ruth took the envelope, weighed it. England, that's a ways. Yep. Friend of yours? Something like that. She didn't push. Filled out the customs form. Asked what was inside. Electronics, I said, but old GPS unit. He collects them. Ruth nodded like that made sense, even though it didn't. Cost me $47.50. I paid cash. She handed me a receipt with a tracking number. Told me it should arrive by next Monday, maybe Tuesday. Thanks, Ruth. Give my best to Lisa, she said. I will. I walked out into the cold morning, stood on the sidewalk for a minute, holding that receipt. Somewhere in the back of my mind, a clock started ticking. 5 days, maybe 6. Then I'd know. I drove home the long way, out past the old Kellerman Ranch, along the Ridge Road, where you can see 50 miles of nothing but grass and sky. Needed time to think. Lisa had Mondays off. She did consulting work from home, something with marketing for small businesses. At least that's what she told me. I'd never asked too many questions. Figured it was her business. Now I wondered if any of it was real. I pulled into the driveway just before noon. Her car was there, lights on in the upstairs window, her office, the one she kept locked. That door had bothered me for 2 years, but I'd never said anything. Everyone deserves privacy, right? Everyone needs a space that's theirs. Except now I wondered what was behind it. I came in through the mudroom, heard her voice upstairs. On the phone, tone low and urgent, I stopped, listened. I know, but it's complicated. Long pause. No, he doesn't suspect anything. He's too trusting. And another pause, then a soft laugh. I told you, Spring, just a few more months. My heart kicked against my ribs. I cleared my throat loud, stomped my boots, made noise. Her voice cut off. Footsteps above me. Then she appeared at the top of the stairs, phone in hand, smiling. Hey, honey, I didn't hear you come in. Just got back from town. How was it? Fine. She came down, kissed my cheek. I'm making lunch. Grilled cheese okay? Sure. She went to the kitchen. I stood there, looking up at that closed office door. Spring. Just a few more months. What happens in spring? That afternoon, Lisa left for yoga. Mondays and Wednesdays, 10 to noon. She never missed. The house was silent. I stood at the bottom of the stairs, looking up at her office door. Every instinct I had said to kick it open, search it, find whatever she was hiding. But Dave's voice was in my head. You need proof. Cold, hard, undeniable proof. Breaking down a door wasn't proof. It was desperation. So I walked up slowly, tried the handle, locked. I knelt down, looked at the keyhole. Standard interior lock. The kind you could open with a butter knife if you knew what you were doing. I could do it, but not yet. I pressed my ear to the door instead, listened, nothing. But I could smell something. Faint. Cigarette smoke. Lisa didn't smoke. At least, I'd never seen her smoke. I stood there for a long time, hand on the doorknob, every muscle in my body screaming to just break the damn thing and see what was inside. Instead, I went back downstairs. Patience, I told myself. Patience and proof. I drove to Dave's place that evening. He lived 5 miles south in a smaller house than mine. 1 story, peeling paint, front porch sagging on one side. His son kept telling him to move into town, into one of those senior apartments, but Dave said he'd die on his own land, or not at all. He was on the porch when I pulled up. 2 chairs, same as always. I sat down. He handed me a beer without asking. We drank in silence for a while. That's what I liked about Dave. He didn't need to fill the quiet. Finally, he spoke. You mail it? This morning. When's it get there? Next Monday, maybe Tuesday. He nodded, took a sip of beer. You ready for what comes next? No? Good. Means you're thinking straight. He looked at me. You know what the hardest part is? What? Acting normal, going home every night, sitting across from her at dinner, pretending everything's fine when you know it's not. Yeah, my Ellen, he said slowly. She died fast. Stroke. Fell down in the kitchen one morning and never woke up. And I remember thinking, after the funeral, after everyone went home, I remember thinking at least I never had to wonder, never had to question if she loved me, never had to doubt. He was quiet for a moment. You don't have that luxury, he said. You got to live with someone you don't trust, sleep next to someone you're afraid of, and you got to do it every day until you have enough proof to get out. I know. That kind of thing changes a man. I know that too. He finished his beer. Jack, whatever you find, however bad it gets, don't let it make you mean. Don't let it make you something you're not. I'm just trying to protect what's mine. I know, but there's a difference between protection and revenge. Remember that. I nodded. Drove home as the sun set. Lisa was in the kitchen when I got back, making dinner, spaghetti, garlic bread, salad. Where were you? She asked. Dave's. How is he? Same as always. She set the table. We ate. She talked about her day, a client call, some marketing strategy she was working on, a funny video she saw online. I nodded in the right places, said the right things, and the whole time I was thinking about that locked office, about the phone calls, about spring being just a few more months away. After dinner, she went to take a bath. I sat in the living room, pretending to watch TV, but really I was watching her phone on the coffee table. It buzzed, screen lit up. Ryan, I stared at it. One touch, that's all it would take. Pick it up, see what the message said. But I didn't know her passcode. And if I picked it up, if I tried and failed, she'd know. The screen went dark. Upstairs, I heard the water shut off. I turned back to the TV. When she came down in her bathrobe, damp hair smelling like lavender, I smiled at her. She curled up next to me on the couch, put her head on my shoulder. "I love nights like this," she said softly. "Just us. Quiet." "Me too." Her phone buzzed again. This time she grabbed it, stood up. "I should take this work thing." At 8 at night. Clients on the West Coast, different time zone. She was already moving toward the stairs. "I'll just be a few minutes." She disappeared into her office. I sat there, listening to the muffled sound of her voice through the ceiling. Thought about the tracker, somewhere over the Atlantic by now. Thought about that locked door. Thought about all the small lies that add up to one big truth. And I thought about Martha. God, I thought about Martha. That night, I couldn't sleep. I went down to the barn, opened the old storage trunk where I kept Martha's things, photo albums, her wedding dress, letters she'd written me during my deployment overseas. At the bottom, wrapped in tissue paper, a small metal lockbox. I'd forgotten about it. Martha had made me promise to keep it, said if anything ever happened to her, I should open it. But after she died, I couldn't. It felt too much like admitting she was really gone. Now I turned the combination lock. Her birthday, 8/14/1969. It clicked open. Inside, papers, documents. And on top, a sealed envelope, written in her handwriting, for Jack. If anything happens, my hands shook as I opened it. Martha's letter. "Jack, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm so sorry. I know how much you hate being alone. I know the silence in this house will feel like it's crushing you. I know you'll want to fill it with anything, anyone, just to stop the loneliness from eating you alive. But I need you to promise me something. Don't marry quick. Don't marry lonely." After I was diagnosed, I started noticing things. The way men at the support group got targeted by women who showed up with sad stories and pretty smiles. The way widowers with land and life insurance became marks within months of losing their wives. I'm not saying all women are like that. Most aren't, but some are. And men like you, good men, honest men, men who think everyone's heart is as true as theirs, you're easy prey. Whatever you do, protect what we built. Protect Sarah. Protect this land. It belongs to her. It's her inheritance. Don't let anyone take it from her. And if someone comes along who seems too perfect, too eager, too fast, check the ground they're standing on. Real love doesn't rush, Jack. Real love waits. I loved you for 25 years. I'll love you forever. Even death doesn't stop that kind of love. Martha, I sat on that hay bale and cried for the first time since her funeral. Not because she was gone, because even in death, she was trying to save me. And I hadn't listened. I wiped my face, looked at the rest of the contents in the box. Papers, documents, our marriage certificate, photos of Sarah as a baby, the deed to the ranch, my name, then Martha's name added after we married. Then, after she died, just my name again. At the bottom, a small notebook. Martha's handwriting on the cover, important, keep safe. I opened it. Inside, notes, phone numbers, instructions for Sarah if something happened to me, contact information for our lawyer, Tom Hendricks, bank account numbers, safe combinations. And on the last page, underlined twice. Before you marry again, ask Tom to run a background check. Promise me. Martha had known. She'd known I'd be vulnerable. Known I'd be lonely. Known someone might come along and see that vulnerability as opportunity. And she'd left me a roadmap. I closed the notebook, put everything back in the lockbox except the letter, folded it carefully, put it in my wallet, then I drove to town. The library closed at 9, but they had public computers available until then. I parked out front with 10 minutes to spare, walked in, waved at Carol behind the desk, sat down at a terminal in the back corner where no one could see the screen, typed into Google, Lisa Ann Brennan, Montana, her maiden name, the name she'd used before we got married. The results loaded. First hit, a wedding announcement from the Billings Gazette. Lisa Ann Brennan, married to Walter Brennan, June 2005. Photo of them smiling. He looked about 60. She looked about 28. I clicked deeper. Found an obituary. Walter Brennan, died August 2007. Age 62. Survived by his loving wife, Lisa. 2 years of marriage. I kept searching. Found another wedding announcement. Lisa Brennan, married to Douglas Kern, March 2009. He was 64 in the photo. She was 32. Another obituary. Douglas Kern, died November 2011. Age 68. Survived by his devoted wife, Lisa. 2.5 years. My hands were shaking now. One more search. Lisa Kern, married to Robert Lattimore, February 2013. He was 61. She was 36. Obituary. Robert Lattimore, died April 2015. Age 64. Survived by his beloved wife, Lisa. 2 years. 3 husbands before me. All older, all widowed or divorced when she met them. All dead within 3 years. All with life insurance policies. I sat back in the chair, staring at the screen. The pattern was so clear, so obvious. How had I not seen it? Carol's voice crackled over the intercom. Library closes in 5 minutes. I cleared the browser history, walked out into the cold night, sat in my truck in the parking lot, engine off, staring at nothing. I wasn't her husband, I was her job. And the tracker wasn't about jealousy or control. It was about opportunity. She needed to know where I was, when I was alone, when I was vulnerable, so she could stage an accident, just like she'd done 3 times before. I drove to Rosie's. She was just closing up, but she saw me through the window and unlocked the door. "You look like hell, Jack. Can I just sit for a minute?" She poured me coffee without asking, sat down across from me. "What's wrong?" I told her. All of it. The tracker, the phone calls, the locked office, the dead husbands. Rosie listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, "You're in danger." "I know. No, I mean real danger. If she's done this 3 times before and gotten away with it, she's good at it. She's practiced." "I know. What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet." Rosie reached across the table, took my hand. "Jack Morrison, you listen to me. You're a good man. You've been good to this town, good to your family, good to everyone you've ever known, and I'll be damned if I'm going to let some pretty little snake take you down." "What do I do, Rosie?" "You get proof, you get a lawyer, and you get her out of your house before she puts you in the ground." She squeezed my hand. "And you call me if you need anything. I mean it. Anything." I drove home just after midnight. Lisa was asleep, or pretending to be. I stood in the bedroom doorway, watching her breathe. She looked so peaceful, so innocent, so convincing. I thought about the 3 men before me, Walter, Douglas, Robert. Had they known? At the end, had they realized, or had they died still trusting her? I went downstairs, made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, pulled out my phone, looked at the tracking number Ruth had given me. The package was in New York, customs, waiting to cross the Atlantic 3 more days. Then it would arrive in Manchester. Then the tracker would go live. Then Lisa's phone would start ringing. And then I'd have the proof I needed. I just had to survive until then. I heard footsteps on the stairs. Lisa appeared in the doorway, wearing my old t-shirt, hair messy from sleep. "Jack, what are you doing up?" "Couldn't sleep." She came over, wrapped her arms around me from behind, rested her chin on my shoulder. "You've been different lately," she said softly. "Distant. Is everything okay?" "Just tired." "You work too hard." She kissed my temple. "Come to bed, please." I looked at her, really looked at her, and I wondered, did she actually feel anything, or was this all just performance? Lines she'd rehearsed, gestures she'd practiced, a role she'd played 4 times now? "I'll be up soon," I said. She hesitated, then nodded, kissed me once more, went back upstairs. I sat there until dawn, drinking cold coffee, waiting for Monday, waiting for England, waiting for the truth to come home. Friday afternoon, 6 days after I mailed the tracker, I checked the tracking number on my phone. Delivered, Manchester, UK, 3:47 p.m. GMT. That was 8:47 a.m. Montana time. By my calculation, the tracker would power on automatically when someone opened the package. Battery would activate, GPS signal would transmit, and if Lisa was monitoring it, if she was tracking me like I thought, she'd see it go live 4,000 miles from home. She'd panic. And when people panic, they call the person they trust most. I needed to be there when that happened. I told Lisa I was riding out to check the south fence line. Storm coming in, wanted to make sure everything was secure before the snow hit. She barely looked up from her laptop. "Okay, honey, be careful." "Always am." I loaded tools into the truck. Drove halfway down the ranch road, past the ridge where the cottonwoods break the wind. Then I pulled off into a clearing behind the barn where my truck couldn't be seen from the house. Killed the engine. Walked back through to the fields on foot, staying low, using the terrain for cover like I'd learned in the service 30 years ago. Got to the house from the backside. Came in through the mudroom quiet as a ghost. The house was still. I stood in the hallway, listening. Upstairs I heard her moving around, her office. The door was closed, but not locked. She only locked it when she left the house. I climbed the stairs slow, 1 step at a time, avoiding the creaky boards I'd known for 48 years. Stood outside her door, pressed my ear against the wood, and I waited. At 3:17 p.m., her phone rang. I heard her answer, "Ryan?" Silence as she listened. Then, "What do you mean it's in Manchester?" My heart was hammering so hard I thought she'd hear it through the door. "That's impossible," she said, voice rising. "The tracker's on his truck. I checked it this morning. It showed him here on the ranch." Pause. "No, he's out fixing fence. He left an hour ago." Longer pause. I could hear Ryan's voice now, faint through the phone speaker. Couldn't make out words, but the tone was sharp, urgent. "How would he find it?" Lisa snapped. "He's a rancher, Ryan. He doesn't know anything about technology. He barely knows how to use his phone. My jaw clenched. Did he find it? Ryan's voice, louder now. She must have put him on speaker. I don't know. Jesus, do you think... If he found it, he'd confront you. He's too stupid to play games. Lisa laughed, bitter, cold. You're right. He trusts me. The idiot actually trusts me. Something broke inside my chest. Not my heart, something deeper. Whatever part of me had been holding on to hope that maybe I was wrong, maybe there was an explanation, maybe she really did love me. That part died right there in the hallway. Okay, Lisa said, voice calmer now. Okay, so somehow the tracker ended up in England. Maybe it fell off. Maybe someone found it and... Lisa, Ryan cut her off. If he knows, you need to abort. Get out now. No, I can't abort. I'm too close. Too close to what? Prison? Too close to $2 million. Silence on the other end. Then Ryan, quiet. Say that again. You heard me. $1. $2 million life insurance, fully vested as of February. Plus the ranch, $850K minimum. Probably more if we get the right buyer. Free and clear. No mortgage. I checked. Jesus Christ, Lisa. What? You losing your nerve? I'm not the one who has to live with him. In 4 more months, she said. Spring. That's it. We stick to the plan. I stage the accident, collect the payout, sell the property. Then I'm on a plane to Thailand, and we're done with this frozen shithole forever. I closed my eyes. Felt the words land like bullets. Stage the accident. And you're sure you can make it look natural? Ryan asked. Ranching accidents happen all the time. Tractor rollover, gored by a bull, fall from a horse. Hell, he's 48 and works alone most days. Heart attack wouldn't even raise eyebrows. What about the daughter? My whole body went rigid. Sarah? Lisa's voice was dismissive. She's at boarding school. Doesn't come home much. Once Jack's gone, I'm her legal guardian until she's 18, which means I control everything. She's not going to fight you? Oh, she'll try. But I'll drag it out in probate until she gives up or settles for pennies on the dollar. Either way, she loses. Ryan laughed. You're cold. You know that? You love it. Damn right I do. Pause. I miss you, Ryan said, softer now. I miss you too, but not for much longer. 4 more months of playing house with that trusting old fool, and we're free. What, you really think he doesn't suspect anything? Baby, I could rob him blind in front of his face and he'd thank me for it. He's so desperate not to be alone, he'll believe anything. It's pathetic, honestly. Just be careful. I'm always careful, that's why I've never been caught. 3 times, right? 4, if you count Jack. And this one's the biggest payout yet. I slid down the wall, sat on the floor, my hands were shaking. Not from fear, from rage. Pure, cold rage that felt like ice in my veins. She called me pathetic. Called Sarah a problem to be dealt with. Called our marriage a con, our life together a job, my trust a weakness to exploit, and she'd done this before. 3 times before. Walter, Douglas, Robert. How many more were there? How many men had she married, bled dry, and buried? How many daughters had she stolen from? I thought about Martha, about the letters she'd left me, warning me, begging me to be careful, about how I'd ignored it because I was lonely, because I was scared of the silence, because I'd wanted so badly to believe that someone could love me again. And Lisa had seen that want, that need, and she'd used it like a weapon. I should go, Lisa said. He'll be back soon. Call me tonight. After he's asleep. I love you. Love you too. And Lisa? Yeah? Make it look good. No mistakes this time. There won't be. I promise. The call ended. I heard her moving around inside the office. Chair scraping. Footsteps. I stood up fast, moved down the hallway, down the stairs, out through the mudroom. Ran back across the fields to where I'd left the truck. Got in, started the engine, drove back toward the house the normal way, coming up the road like I'd just finished checking fence. By the time I pulled into the driveway, I'd buried the rage so deep you couldn't see it, but it was there. Burning. Lisa was in the kitchen when I came in, making dinner, humming. How was the fence? She asked without turning around. Fine. Couple loose posts, fix them. Good. She turned, smiled at me. I made pot roast, your favorite. Smells good. She came over, kissed me. I kissed her back. And I thought, 4 more months. That's how long she was planning to keep me alive. 4 more months of playing husband while she planned my murder. 4 more months of smiling and lying and pretending she loved me while she figured out the best way to make my death look like an accident. We ate dinner together. She talked about her day, some client call, some marketing project, all lies. I nodded, said the right things, complimented the pot roast. And the whole time I was thinking about Sarah, about how Lisa planned to rob her, control her, steal her inheritance. My daughter, Martha's daughter. The only good thing I'd ever done in this world, not a chance in hell was I letting that happen. After dinner, Lisa went to take a bath. I sat in the living room, pretending to watch TV. But really, I was making a plan. Tom Hendricks, the lawyer. First thing Monday morning, police, eventually. But not yet. Not until I had everything documented, recorded, ironclad. Dave was right. I needed proof that couldn't be questioned, couldn't be twisted, couldn't be explained away. And I needed to protect Sarah. That was the most important thing. Whatever happened to me, whatever Lisa tried, Sarah had to be safe. I pulled out my phone, texted Tom, "Need to see you Monday, 9 a.m. Urgent, bring estate paperwork." He replied within minutes, "Everything okay?" "No, but it will be." Then I called Sarah, video call. She answered from her dorm room, smiled when she saw me. "Hey, Dad." "Hey, baby. You look tired." Long day. Listen, I need to tell you something." Her smile faded. "What's wrong?" "I'm handling something with Lisa. But I need you to know, no matter what happens, you're protected. The ranch is yours, the money, everything. It's all in your name. She can't touch it." "Dad, you're scaring me." "Don't be scared. Just trust me." "Can you do that?" "Of course, but..." "And Sarah, don't come home for Thanksgiving. Stay at Emma's, like you talked about." "Why?" "Because I need to know you're safe while I fix this." She stared at me through the screen. Martha's eyes, Martha's intuition. "She's trying to hurt you," Sarah said quietly. It wasn't a question. "Yeah, I knew it. I knew something was wrong. I'm going to handle it, but I need you away from here while I do. Okay?" "Okay. I love you, baby." "I love you too, Dad. Please be careful." "I will." I hung up, sat there for a long time, holding the phone, thinking about what came next. Upstairs, I heard this bathwater draining, heard Lisa moving around in the bedroom, heard her call my name. "Jack, you coming to bed?" "In a minute," I called back. I stood up, looked at myself in the dark reflection of the TV screen. 48 years old. Farmer, veteran, widower. Father, Mark, victim. But not for long. I climbed the stairs. Lisa was in bed, reading a book, looking soft and sweet and perfect. I got in beside her. She put her head on my chest. "I'm glad you're home." "Me too." She fell asleep within minutes. I stared at the ceiling all night. And I thought about spring. 4 more months. Not if I could help it. Saturday morning, I woke up before dawn. Lisa was still asleep beside me, one arm thrown over my pillow, her face peaceful in the dim light. I got up, dressed quiet, went downstairs without waking her, made coffee in the dark kitchen. Stood at the window, watching the sky turn from black to gray. The land was still, waiting. I took my coffee and walked out to the barn. The barn smelled like hay and leather and 50 years of honest work. I sat on the same hay bale where I'd read Martha's letter, watched the sunrise through the open door, pink light spreading across the fields. The mountains, black against the horizon. Frost glittering on the grass like broken glass. The land doesn't lie. Martha used to say that. She meant it literally. The land remembers where things are buried, where foundations were laid, where her grandfather's cabin used to stand before it burned down in 1943. But she meant something else too. The land remembers who worked it, who loved it, who earned the right to call it home. Lisa could forge documents, she could manipulate people, she could lie so convincingly that even I, who'd lived 48 years learning to read weather and cattle and the truth in a man's handshake, couldn't see through her. But the land knew. It knew I belonged here. And it knew she didn't. I thought about the 3 men before me, Walter, Douglas, Robert. Had they known at the end? Had they realized what was happening? Or had they died still trusting her? Still believing she loved them? Still thinking their deaths were just bad luck? Just accidents? Just the way life goes sometimes? I thought about their families, their children, the people who'd loved them and lost them and never knew why. And I thought about Sarah, my daughter. Martha's daughter, 16 years old, smart as hell, going to college next year, wanted to be a veterinarian, maybe come back and work the ranch, maybe not. Either way, she had choices, had a future. And Lisa wanted to take that from her, not just the money, not just the land, but the knowledge that her father had loved her enough to protect what was hers. The knowledge that family means something, that promises matter, that some things can't be bought or stolen or lied away. Lisa wanted to poison that, and I wasn't going to let it happen. I pulled out my phone, looked at a photo of Sarah from last summer. She was standing in this exact barn, holding a barn cat, grinning at the camera. She looked like Martha. Same eyes, same smile, same way of looking at the world like it was full of good things if you just paid attention. I'd raised her to believe that, to trust people, to see the best in them, to think that most folks were trying their hardest with what they had, and maybe I'd been wrong to teach her that. Maybe the world was full of people like Lisa, beautiful liars who saw kindness as weakness, trust as opportunity, love as a tool to be used and discarded. But I didn't want to believe that. I didn't want to become someone who thought that way. Dave showed up around 8, didn't call first, didn't knock. Just pulled into the driveway, got out of his truck, and walked into the barn like he knew I'd be there. He sat down on the hay bale next to me, handed me a thermos of coffee. We didn't talk for a long time. Finally, he said, "You look like a man who found something he didn't want to find." "Yeah. How bad?" "Worse than I thought." He nodded, waited. I told him, all of it. The phone call I'd overheard, the plan to kill me, the dead husband, Sarah's inheritance. When I finished, Dave was quiet for a long time. "Jesus, Jack." "Yeah. What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet." He looked at me. "You know what the difference is between revenge and justice?" "What?" "Revenge makes you feel better. Justice makes things right. One's about you, the other's about everyone else." I thought about that. "I don't want revenge," I said. "Good. Because revenge would be easy. Throw her out, make a scene. Tell the whole town what she did. Maybe get physical. Maybe worse." He paused. "But that's not justice. That's just you being angry. And anger don't protect your daughter. Anger don't stop Lisa from doing this to the next guy. So what do? You make sure she can't hurt anyone again. Ever. You document everything. You get a lawyer. You get the police involved. And you make sure that when it's over, she's the one in a cage, not you." He put a hand on my shoulder. "You're a good man, Jack. You've been good to this town, good to your family, good to everyone you've ever met. Don't let what she did turn you into something you're not." "I'm trying. I know. But here's what I learned when Ellen died. Sometimes the hardest thing about being good is staying good when the world gives you every reason not to be." I sat with that for a while. Then I said, "Dave, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you think I'm stupid for not seeing it?" He shook his head. "No, I think you're human. Humans want to believe in people, especially people they love. That's not stupid. That's just hopeful. Hopeful got me here. Maybe, but hopeful also kept you from becoming like her. You could have been suspicious, paranoid, cruel, could have treated every woman like a threat after Martha died. But you didn't. You stayed open. That's not weakness, Jack. That's courage. Doesn't feel like courage. It never does. Courage feels like being terrified and doing it anyway. Feels like getting hurt and not letting it make you mean." He stood up. "Come on, let's get breakfast. You can't think straight on an empty stomach." We drove to Rosie's. The diner was busy, Saturday morning crowd, families, ranchers, kids in 4-H jackets, normal people living normal lives. Nobody knew what was happening in my house. Nobody knew that the woman I was married to had killed 3 men and was planning to make me the 4th. And part of me wanted to stand up and scream it. Tell everyone, warn them, make sure they knew. But I didn't, because Dave was right. This wasn't about me feeling better. This was about stopping her. And the only way to do that was to be smart, patient, cold. To outthink her the way she'd outthought Walter and Douglas and Robert. Rosie brought us coffee and pancakes without asking what we wanted. "You still look like hell, Jack," she said. "Working on it." She patted my hand. "You need anything at all, you call me. I mean it." "Thanks, Rosie." After she left, Dave said, "A lot of people care about you, you know. You're not alone in this." "I know." "Good, remember that. When it gets hard, when you're scared, when you want to give up, remember you got people in your corner." And I nodded. We ate in silence. I drove home around noon. Lisa was in the kitchen making lunch. "Where were you?" she asked. "Dave's." "Then breakfast." "You should have told me. I would have come with you." "Last minute thing." She smiled, kissed my cheek. "Well, I'm making grilled cheese. Want one?" "Sure." I sat at the table and watched her cook. And I thought about what Dave had said. Don't let what she did turn you into something you're not. I could do this without becoming like her. I could get justice without losing myself. I could protect Sarah without becoming the kind of man who solved problems with violence or rage or revenge. I could stay good, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. That night, after Lisa went to bed, I went back out to the barn, opened Martha's lockbox again, held her letter, read it one more time. Even death doesn't stop that kind of love. "I hear you now," I said out loud to the empty barn. "I'm sorry it took so long, but I hear you." The wind moved through the rafters, the land was quiet, and I thought, Martha's still here. Not as a ghost, but as a reminder. Some love doesn't end when the body does. It just changes shape. Becomes steel instead of softness. Becomes the thing that saves you when you can't save yourself. I put the letter back, closed the box, walked back to the house under a sky full of stars. On Monday, I'd call the lawyer. On Monday, I'd start building the case. On Monday, I'd begin the long, patient work of making sure Lisa Morrison never hurt anyone again. But tonight, I just stood in the cold and breathed and reminded myself, I'm still here. I'm still standing. And I'm not done yet. Monday morning, 9 a.m., sharp. I walked into Tom Hendrick's office with a manila folder under my arm. Tom had been our family lawyer for 30 years, handled my parents' estate, handled Martha's will, handled the deed transfers when Sarah was born. He was 73 now, white hair, liver spots on his hands, but his mind was sharp as a razor. He stood up when I came in, looked at my face. Jesus, Jack, you look terrible. I need your help. Ooh, sit down. Tell me everything. I laid it out. Chronological, clinical, the way you'd explain a problem with a tractor or a sick cow. The GPS tracker, the mailing to England, the phone call I'd overheard, the dead husbands, the life insurance, the plan to kill me in spring. I opened the folder, showed him what I'd gathered. The GPS tracker itself, physical evidence, printout of the tracking history from Tyler marriage records for Lisa's previous husbands, public records I'd pulled from the county database, death certificates for all 3 men insurance payout records. Tom had access to legal databases I didn't. Bank statements showing Lisa moving money into a separate account. I'd printed them from our joint account. Audio recording of the phone call. I'd recorded it on my phone through the door. Not admissible in court, Tom said, but enough to establish probable cause. Tom went through everything twice. When he finished, he took off his glasses, rubbed his eyes. Jack, this is attempted murder, or at minimum, conspiracy to commit murder and insurance fraud. You need to go to the police. Not yet. Why not? Because I need to do one more thing first. Tom looked at me. What thing? I need to call Ryan. The man in England? Yeah. Why? I leaned forward. Tom, Lisa's not just trying to kill me, she's destroying families. Ryan's got a wife, 2 kids, and he doesn't know what he's involved in. He thinks this is just an affair, just easy money. He doesn't know she's a serial killer. Yeah, that's not your responsibility. Maybe not. But if I don't tell him, and something happens to his family because I stayed silent, I couldn't live with that. And so Tom was quiet for a long time. You're a better man than most, Jack Morrison. I'm just trying to do the right thing. All right, but we do this carefully. We document everything, and then we go to the police. Agreed? Agreed. Tom pulled up Ryan's phone number from the call records I'd subpoenaed through legal channels. International number, Manchester area code. I used Tom's office phone. Didn't want the call traced back to my cell. It was 4 p.m. in Montana, which meant it was 11:00 p.m. in England. The phone rang 4 times, then a groggy voice. Hello? Ryan Cole? Pause. Who's this? Jack Morrison, Lisa's husband. Silence. I could hear him breathing, heard him sit up. Heard a woman's voice in the background. His wife, probably, asking who was calling this late. Just work, love, Ryan said to her. Then to me, voice low. How did you get this number? I know everything, Ryan. The tracker, the plan, Thailand. The $2 million. I know. Listen, mate, I don't know what... Shut up and listen. I'm not calling to threaten you. I'm calling to save your life. What? How long have you been married, Ryan? What does that have to do with... How long? 8 years. Kids? Pause. 2 girls. Why? Then you need to know something. Lisa's killed 3 husbands before me. Not allegedly, actually. She's a serial killer who uses life insurance instead of a gun. Nervous laugh. You're insane. As I have the records. I have the recordings. I have proof. And I have a lawyer sitting right here ready to send everything to the police. But I'll make you a deal. What deal? You call Lisa right now. You tell her it's over. You block her number. You never speak to her again. And you go home to your wife and kids and fix whatever broke that made you think this was a good idea. And if I don't, then I send your wife the recordings of you and Lisa planning my murder. I send the police everything. And you lose your family, your freedom, and your life. Your choice. Long silence. I could hear him breathing. Finally, she told me you were senile, that you didn't even know where you were half the time, that the ranch was falling apart, that she was just waiting for you to die? Yeah. His voice broke. I didn't know I thought it was just... Jesus, I'm so sorry. Don't apologize to me. Apologize to your wife. And Ryan? Yeah? If I ever hear from you again, if you contact Lisa, if you warn her, if you even think about interfering, I won't call. I'll just destroy you. Understood? Understood. Good. Now go be a better man than you were yesterday. I hung up. Tom stared at me. You just gave him an out. I gave him a choice. That's more than Lisa gave anyone. What if he warns her? He won't. How do you know? Because he's scared. And scared people don't protect their accomplices. They protect themselves. Tom nodded slowly. You're smarter than you look, Jack. I've had time to think. We spent the next hour drafting documents, emergency protective order to keep Lisa away from the property, divorce papers citing fraud and criminal conspiracy, removal of Lisa as beneficiary on all insurance policies. Creation of an irrevocable trust in Sarah's name for the ranch and all assets. Restraining order, preventing Lisa from contacting Sarah or accessing her accounts. Tom would file everything first thing tomorrow. Before Lisa knew what was happening. What about tonight? Tom asked. You're going back to that house with her? One more night, then it's done. Jack, that's dangerous. I'll be careful. That's not good enough. What if she tries something? I pulled my phone out, showed him an app. Safety check-in app. If I don't reset it every 3 hours, it automatically texts you, Dave, and the sheriff with my location and a distress message. And I'm sleeping with my door locked and my father's shotgun under the bed. Tom looked at me for a long moment. When did you become so calculating? When I realized the only way to beat someone like her is to think 3 steps ahead. I drove home around noon. Lisa was in the kitchen, saw me come in. Where were you? Town. Errands. What kind of errands? Just stuff that needed doing. She studied my face. You seem different lately. Are we okay? We're fine. You sure? I walked over, kissed her forehead. I'm sure. She smiled. Relaxed, but I could see it in her eyes, a flicker of uncertainty. Like she was starting to suspect something, but couldn't quite figure out what. Good. Let her wonder. That evening, I cooked dinner. Steaks, baked potatoes, salad. Lisa was surprised. What's the occasion? No occasion. Just felt like cooking. We ate together at the table. Made small talk. She told me about her day, client calls, marketing projects, the usual lies. Her phone sat on the counter, silent. Ryan hadn't called. I could see it eating at her. She kept glancing at it, picking it up, checking for messages. Nothing. You okay? I asked. Fine. Just tired. You've been on your phone a lot lately. It's work. Must be important work. She looked at me. Really looked at me. And for a second, just a second, I saw something in her face. Fear. She was starting to realize something was wrong, but she couldn't figure out what. After dinner, she excused herself, said she had a headache, went upstairs. I heard her in her office. Heard her trying to call Ryan. It went to voicemail. She tried again. Voicemail. She started pacing. I could hear her footsteps through the ceiling. Then I heard her crying. Not sad crying, frustrated crying, angry crying. The kind of crying that comes when a plan falls apart and you don't know why. I sat in the living room and waited. Around 10 o'clock, she came downstairs, eyes red, hair messy. I think I'm going to sleep in the guest room tonight, she said. Don't want to keep you awake with my tossing and turning. Okay. She looked at me like she wanted to say something, then changed her mind. Good night, Jack. Good night. She went back upstairs. I heard the guest room door close. I sat there for another hour, listening to the house settle, making sure she was really asleep. Then I went upstairs to my room, locked the door from the inside, pulled my father's old shotgun out of the closet, checked that it was loaded, set it on the floor beside the bed, set my phone alarm for every 3 hours, the safety app check-in. And I lay there, in the dark, staring at the ceiling, thinking about tomorrow. Tomorrow, Tom would file the papers. Tomorrow, the sheriff would serve Lisa with a restraining order. Tomorrow, this would be over. I just had to survive tonight. The wind rattled the windows, the house creaked, and I stayed awake, watching the door, listening for footsteps, waiting for dawn. I didn't sleep. Just lay there, all night, watching the shadows on the ceiling, listening to every sound in the old house. Every creak, every groan, every whisper of wind against the windows. At 5:30 a.m., the alarm went off. I got up, showered, dressed, put the shotgun back in the closet. Went downstairs and made coffee like it was any other Tuesday morning. Lisa came down around 7. She looked terrible, eyes puffy, hair uncombed, still wearing yesterday's clothes. Morning, I said. She just nodded, poured herself coffee, stood at the window, staring out at nothing. We didn't talk. At 8:45, Tom called my cell. It's done. Papers are filed. Sheriff's on his way. How long? 10 minutes, maybe less. Thanks, Tom. I hung up. Lisa looked at me. Who was that? Nobody important. She went back to staring out the window. At 8:52 a.m., Sheriff Miller's patrol car pulled into the driveway. Lisa saw it, went very still. Jack, she said quietly. Why is the sheriff here? I imagine you'll find out. She turned to look at me, really look at me. And for the first time since I'd known her, the mask slipped completely. No warmth, no sweetness, no performance, just cold calculation and rising panic. What did you do? What I should have done months ago. The doorbell rang. Sheriff Miller stood on the porch with another deputy I didn't recognize. Dave's truck was parked behind them. He'd come too, just in case. Morning, Jack, Miller said. Sheriff, is Lisa Morrison home? She's in the kitchen. He nodded, came inside. The deputy followed. Lisa was standing by the counter, trying to look confused, trying to look innocent. Lisa Morrison, Miller said. Yes? I need to ask you some questions. It's about a GPS tracking device. You know anything about that? What? No. Why would I? Because it was registered to your phone number, and it was placed on your husband's vehicle without his knowledge or consent. She looked at me, eyes wide. Jack, what is he talking about? Tell him this is a mistake. I met her gaze, steady, cold. I found the tracker 6 weeks ago, Lisa. Under my truck, I sent it to England. And when it went live, your phone rang. I heard everything. All the color drained from her face. I don't know what you think you heard. I heard you and Ryan planning to kill me for the insurance money. I heard you say you'd done this 3 times before. I heard you call me pathetic. I heard you talk about stealing Sarah's inheritance. Miller stepped forward. Mrs. Morrison, you're under arrest on suspicion of stalking, conspiracy to commit fraud, and conspiracy to commit murder. You have the right to remain silent. This is insane. She backed away. Jack, please, you have to believe me. Turn around and put your hands behind your back, Miller said. I can explain. Ma'am, turn around. She looked at me one more time, desperate now. Jack, I love you. You know I love you. This is all a misunderstanding. That call, that was just, I wasn't serious. Turn around, Miller repeated. She started to cry. Jack, please. The deputy moved forward, took her arm. She yanked away. Don't touch me. Ma'am, you can cooperate or we can do this the hard way. She looked around the room, at me, at Miller, at Dave, standing in the doorway, at the deputy reaching for his handcuffs. And something in her face changed. The fear vanished. The desperation vanished. What was left was pure, cold rage. You bastard, she said to me, voice flat, empty. You actually figured it out. Yeah. How long have you known? Long enough. She laughed, sharp, bitter. And here I thought you were just another stupid old man. Guess I underestimated you. You underestimated a lot of things, Miller nodded to the deputy. They moved in. This time she didn't resist. Just stood there while they cuffed her hands behind her back. You'll never prove it, she said as they led her toward the door. The others. You'll never prove I killed them. Maybe not, I said. But I can prove you tried to kill me. And that's enough. She stopped in the doorway, looked back at me. You know what the funny thing is? I actually started to like you. You were kind, patient, boring as hell, but kind. For a second there, I almost felt bad. Almost? She smiled. Almost. And Miller walked her out. I stood in the kitchen doorway and watched them put her in the patrol car. Watched the lights flash. Watched them drive away. Dave came up beside me, put a hand on my shoulder. You okay? I don't know yet. That's fair. We stood there for a long time, watching the dust settle on the driveway. Finally, Dave said, She's gone, Jack. It's over. Yeah. What are you going to do now? I don't know. Clean the house, I guess. Get her stuff out, change the locks, call Sarah. Need help? Yeah, I think I do. Tom showed up an hour later with more papers, restraining order signed by the judge, divorce petition filed, all insurance policies updated, Lisa's name removed, Sarah's name added, emergency trust established in Sarah's name, the ranch, the money, everything, untouchable. Even if Lisa somehow got out, even if she tried to fight it in court, she'd never see a dime. What happens now? I asked. Criminal investigation. The county prosecutor is already involved. With the evidence you gathered, plus the recordings, plus her history, they've got a strong case. Will it stick? Stalking and conspiracy? Absolutely. The other 3 husbands? That'll take time. They're reopening those investigations now. But, Jack, even if they can't prove the murders, she's looking at serious prison time for what she did to you. How long? 5 to 10 years. Maybe more. Depends on the plea deal. I sat with that. 5 to 10 years. Not nearly enough for 3 dead men and 4 ruined families. But it was something. Thank you, Tom. You did the hard part, Jack. All I did was the paperwork. I spent the rest of the day boxing up Lisa's things. Her clothes, her books, her laptop, that expensive perfume she wore. Dave helped. We didn't talk much, just worked. When we got to her office, the locked room, I used a crowbar to pop the door. Inside, a desk, a chair, filing cabinets. And on the wall, a corkboard covered in photos and documents. Photos of me, of the ranch, of the bank statements, a timeline, written in her handwriting. Met JM, September 2020. Married, May 2021. Insurance vested, Feb 2024. Target date, spring 2025. Notes about my routines, where I went, when I was alone. A list of possible accidents, tractor rollover, bull attack, fall from horse, heart attack. Induced? Dave stood beside me, staring at it. Jesus Christ, he whispered. I pulled the GPS tracker from my pocket, the one I'd kept as evidence. Looked at it one last time. This little black box had saved my life. I walked over to the corkboard, pinned it right in the center of Lisa's timeline. Evidence, I said, for the prosecutor. Dave nodded. We took photos of everything, then we boxed it all up. That evening, I called Sarah, told her everything, the arrest, the charges, that she was safe, that the ranch was hers, that no one could take it from her. She cried, not from fear, from relief. I'm coming home, she said. You don't have to... Dad, I'm coming home. Okay. I love you. I love you too, baby. After I hung up, I walked out to the creek behind the house, stood there in the cold evening air, holding that GPS tracker one last time. Thought about everything it represented: violation, control, surveillance, but also proof, truth, justice. Martha had said the land doesn't lie. She was right. But sometimes, neither does technology when you use it the right way. I threw the tracker into the water, watched it sink, and I thought, that's where it belongs. Buried, forgotten, like everything Lisa tried to do to me. I walked back to the house. Dave was on the porch, 2 beers in his hand. Figured you could use this, he said. Yeah. We sat in the chairs, watched the sunset. You did good, Jack. Doesn't feel like it yet. It will. Give it time. How much time? However long it takes. We drank in silence. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt something I'd almost forgotten. Peace, not happiness. Not yet, but peace. The kind that comes when you've survived something you weren't sure you'd survive. The kind that comes when you realize, I'm still here, I'm still standing, and I'm going to be okay. 3 weeks later, Thanksgiving, Sarah came home the day before, pulled into the driveway in her beat-up Honda, jumped out, ran straight into my arms. Hey, Dad. Hey, baby. We stood there for a long time, just holding on. When we finally let go, she looked at the house. Is it weird, being here without her? A little, but it's getting better. Good. She picked up her bag. So where are we having Thanksgiving? Please don't tell me you're cooking. I laughed. First real laugh in months. Dave's, he insisted. Thank God. I love you, Dad, but your turkey's always dry. It is not. It's like eating sawdust. You ate 3 helpings last year. Out of pity. We went inside, and for the first time since Lisa left, the house felt like home again. Thanksgiving Day, we drove to Dave's. His son Tom was there, 52, looked just like Dave, worked construction in Billings. Tom's wife Carol brought sweet potatoes. Dave had done the turkey. We sat around the table, 5 of us in Dave's small dining room, elbows practically touching, and it felt right. Dave said grace, thank God for family, for friends, for second chances. When he said amen, Sarah squeezed my hand. We ate. The turkey was perfect. The conversation was easy. And then Dave, carving seconds, looked at me with that dry smile of his. So Jack, you dating yet? Sarah choked on her water. I stared at him. Dave, it's been 3 weeks. Hey, I'm just saying, you got a hell of a story now. Single rancher, owns land, survived serial killer wife. That's a dating profile that writes itself. Carol swatted his arm. Dave! Sarah was laughing so hard she couldn't breathe. Oh my God, she gasped. Please don't. Please, Dad, promise me you won't. I promise. Because if you start dating, she said, wiping her eyes, I'm running a full background check. FBI, CIA, Interpol, the works. That seems fair, Tom said. Dave raised his glass. To Jack, for being smart enough to catch her. And to Sarah, for inheriting her mother's good sense and her father's stubbornness. To Jack and Sarah, everyone echoed. We clinked glasses, and I thought, this is family. Not the people you're related to. The people who show up, who stay, who help you pack boxes and drink beer on the porch and make jokes at Thanksgiving dinner because they know you need to laugh again. After dinner, Sarah and I drove home the long way, out past the ridge, where you can see the whole valley spread out below. I pulled over, shut off the engine. We got out and stood there looking at the land. You okay, Dad? She asked. Yeah, I think I am. You sure? Because it's okay if you're not. You went through something. She stopped. Something really bad? I know, but I'm okay, really. She was quiet for a moment. Did you love her, Lisa? I thought I did. Or maybe I just love not being alone. There's a difference. Yeah, I'm learning that. She leaned against the truck. Mom would be proud of you. You know that, right? My throat tightened. You think so? I know so. She tried to warn you. And you listened. Just eventually. Eventually counts? Eventually counts. We stood there watching the sunset, orange and purple and gold, Martha's favorite kind of sky. I miss her, Sarah said quietly. Me too. Do you think about her still? Every day. Good. I was worried you'd, I don't know, forget. I put my arm around her shoulders, Baby, I couldn't forget your mother if I tried. She's in this land, in this house, in you, in every good thing I've ever done. Sarah wiped her eyes. Okay, good. Because I need to know she's still here somewhere. She is, I promise. We drove home as the stars came out. When we got back, Sarah went to the porch, looked at the empty space where the wind chimes used to hang. Where are Mom's chimes? Lisa took them down, said the sound gave her headaches. Sarah's face darkened. She what? It's okay. They're in the barn. I saved them. Can we put them back up? Yeah. Let's do it now. We found them in the storage trunk. Martha had bought them at a craft fair in Billings, handmade copper tubes that sang in even the smallest breeze. Sarah held them while I climbed the ladder, hung them in the exact same spot they'd been for 15 years. When I came down, Sarah pulled the string. The chimes sang, clear and bright and sad and beautiful all at once. There, she said. Now it's home again. We stood on the porch, listening. You know what Mom used to say? Sarah asked. What? That every time the chimes ring, it's someone you love saying hello. I remember. The wind picked up. The chimes rang again. Sarah smiled. Hi, Mom. I didn't say anything, just listened. And I swear I felt Martha there. Not as a ghost, but as a presence, a memory, a warmth in the cold Montana night. Later that evening, after Sarah went to bed, I drove to the cemetery. It was dark, cold, snow starting to fall in soft, fat flakes. I walked to Martha's grave, brushed the snow off her headstone. Martha Louise Morrison, beloved wife and mother, 1969 to 2019. I knelt down, set a small bundle of wildflowers against the stone. Not roses, wildflowers, her favorite. I'm sorry I didn't listen the first time, I said quietly. Sorry I let loneliness make me stupid. But I heard you eventually, and I did what you asked. I protected Sarah. I protected the land. I protected myself. The wind blew snow across the headstone. I think you'd be proud. Or maybe you'd say, I told you so. Either way, I miss you, and I'm going to be okay. I stood up, brushed the snow off my knees. Sarah's home for the weekend. The chimes are back up. The house feels right again. The wind chimed through the trees. I smiled. Yeah, I hear you. I walked back to the truck, drove home through the falling snow. When I got there, the porch light was on. The chimes were singing, and through the window I could see Sarah in the kitchen, making tea. Home. Not perfect, not healed, not yet, but home, and that was enough. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with Sarah, drank tea, talked about her classes, her friends, her plans for winter break. Normal things, safe things. And for the first time in 2 years, I didn't feel the weight of someone watching me. Didn't feel the fear that every word was being analyzed, every action cataloged, every moment part of some larger plan I couldn't see. I was just here, a father and his daughter, drinking tea on a snowy November night. Dad, Sarah said. Yeah? I'm glad you're okay. Me too, baby, me too. Outside, the wind chimes sang, and somewhere, I thought, Martha was smiling.